there, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming out to the Lavaca River Ranch for today's Lavaca lesson. Today we're going to talk about alligators. I'm Sheila Mayfield. I've been with the Lavaca River Ranch for 15 years. Now before we get started, since we have a pretty small group today, only about 8 of us, can you please let me know a little about you? Just let me know your name, where you're from, and something you're interested in.
I'm Tom.
Yeah, where are you from, Tom?
Oh, the last time I thought about it was Houston, Texas.
Well, that's great. And someone told me you might be a doctor. That's awesome. Yeah, what about you?
I'm Mary, I'm from Houston, and I'm interested in alligators.
Very good. Huh?
I'm Bridget, and I am from Houston also, and I'm interested in alligators.
Well, that's good.
I'm Mary Dell. I'm also from Houston. I'm also
This is the perfect group. Okay,
I'm
great.
Annie. I'm from Austin.
Great.
And I'm interested in alligators all across Texas.
Good.
I'm Rachel, and I'm from Houston, and I'm also interested in alligators.
I have a feeling everybody likes alligators. Yeah.
I'm Lulis, I'm from Houston, and before that Mexico, and I'm interested in learning new things.
Great. Right,
I'm
me too.
Mariana, I'm from Mexico, and I don't like very much the alligators.
Okay, good. Okay.
And I'm Eve. I'm from Bel Air, Texas.
Okay.
And I like Brazos Bend State Park, but there's a lot of alligators there, so I'm interested in learning how to have an encounter, a safe encounter with them.
Excellent. Those are great. Well, this is really the perfect group. That's wonderful. Okay, well, we're going to spend about 20 minutes together learning about alligators. And before we get started, I know you can see the display I have here. Now, these alligators, plus all the other ones I'm going to show you in a minute, are all from right here at the Lavaca River Ranch, right here. In the distance, by the way, is the Lavaca River. These lakes right here are in-water lakes, and so they are brackish, which means they're mostly fresh water and some salty. Now, before we get started, I'm going to pull out some samples, and I want you guys to pass them around so you can feel them, feel their teeth, feel their bones, and then go ahead and hang on to whichever one is interesting to you so you can feel it during the presentation and really get to know it. Okay, great. So here we go. This is a juvenile alligator. This would be a very young one. There we go. That one's probably only a couple of years old. I want you guys to feel this because this one is very heavy. So you need to get the idea of the weight of this one. If it's too heavy for you, you don't have to hold it. But I encourage you, try to hold it and put your fingers across the teeth and see, I'm just checking to see if I have any more in there. Here, why don't we pass this around as well? Okay, so everybody touch it, touch the nostrils, touch the eye sockets. Okay, now, our theme today, we know our topic is alligators. Our theme today comes from a notion that an interesting guest we had a while back brought up. He caught a little alligator on a fishing pole and said, "Hi, can I take this home for my pet?" I thought, well, that's a very interesting idea. Should an alligator be your pet? I kind of don't think so, but let's look into it and see what we can find out. Now, while you guys are holding all of those, I want you to think about this. So the background, there are 2 kinds of alligators. There are American alligators, which is what all this is, and there are Chinese alligators, also called Yangtze alligators. Anyone know why Yangtze might be the name?
Yangtze River.
Yes, because there's a very large important river in China called the Yangtze River, and that's where these alligators live. Now, the Chinese alligators are almost extinct. They're almost extinct. They're at the very edge of the threatened status. There are 3 levels in the threatened status. It's at the most extreme. After that, it's only extinct in the wild and then extinct straight up. Okay, so that's where they are. The American alligator used to be like that in the late 60s and the 50s. But now we are off of the extinction list altogether. We are thriving. The American alligator is in great shape, and it's because of 3 reasons. First is state and federal regulations during the late 60s. Specifically in 1967 was the Endangered Species Act, and that greatly helped. Additionally, the habitat of alligators became protected and more widely established, so that helped them. And the third thing was the demand by the public for alligator products greatly went down. And so there wasn't really an economic business interest in harvesting alligators, so that helped the population as well. Now, just so that you know here, because obviously you see all of these alligator heads here at the Lavaca River Ranch, the reason we have these is because the state of Texas, the Parks and Wildlife Department, they manage the hunting of alligators and all other animals in Texas in order to preserve and strengthen the species. So the way that it works is the Lavaca River Ranch petitions the state of Texas saying we want to hunt alligators, and we let the state know how much river frontage we have. So this ranch has about 1 mile from Highway 616 down about a mile along the Lavaca River. Then the state looks into their research and figures out how many exist and how many we can harvest. So we are assigned usually 5 alligators per season. So 5 alligators per year, and we never get that many. That's a lot. You would have to hunt all the time to get that many. So that's how we ended up with, over the last 15 years, all of these alligators that you see here. Okay, so the age of alligators is very interesting. Alligators have been around for 150 million years. So it's a really long time. But an interesting thing to consider about that is that 65 million years ago, the dinosaurs became extinct. So the alligators outlived whatever killed all the dinosaurs, probably a meteorite, but we don't know. But so they have been around a really long time, and they are a rugged creature that is here to stay. Also, alligators are in the class called reptiles. All right, so most animals you're familiar with are in the same phylum, which is a large grouping of animals, as so reptiles and alligator is one grouping called a class. We are mammals, humans. There's also fish, birds, and amphibians. Those are the 5 main ones in our grouping. And our grouping, like I said, it was called a phylum, and people sometimes call it a vertebrate, but its really proper name is chordata. Okay, chordata. It's easy to remember that reptiles, amphibians, mammals, fish, birds are all chordata because we have spinal cord. Okay, so just remember that, spinal cord, chordata. The other phylum, or large grouping of animals that you're probably familiar with, would be invertebrates. That would include arachnids, which are spiders, and insects, and things like that. Okay, so that's kind of the big picture on where alligators fall into the animal groups. But I thought that you might like to know that. Okay, so back to, should this alligator be my pet? Okay, let's think about the body. When it's grown up, your alligator, if it's a male, now this is probably a female, and it's probably only, I would say maybe about 12 years old. But a male is going to weigh up to 1,000 pounds. 1,000 pounds is the weight of 2 pianos. You cannot carry your alligator anywhere you might want to take your pet. If you have a female, it's going to weigh about 1 piano, about half of the weight. So it's going to be very, very heavy. All right, the length. A male is going to be between 10 and 15 feet long. So that's about the length of a station wagon. If it's a female, it's going to be on average 6 feet and can be up to about 10 feet. And that's the length of about a normal sedan. So it's going to be heavy and long. Think about what kind of cage, or if you want to put it in your living room, it's going to fill up a lot of your area. Okay, some interesting things about it. Its feet. The toes on this guy, the back feet have only 4 toes, while the front feet have 5 toes. Interesting thing. Even more perhaps are the teeth. So I don't know if Annie from Austin, if you want to count all those, but there are 74 to 80 teeth on an adult alligator, and as they wear out, they shed their teeth and new ones come. So in the course of a lifetime, guess how many teeth they might have? If you have 80, throw out any answer you think might be right.
500.
320.
500.
500. 3,000 teeth. By the time they die, they will have shed, so sharks shed a lot of teeth, but they have rows of teeth in their mouth, and you can see an alligator only has one, like we do, around the top bottom. Another interesting thing about the alligator versus a crocodile is when the mouth is closed, the lower jaw, it's a little hard to see, but if you look closely you can see, the lower jaw teeth are hidden. Okay, so when the mouth is closed, you can only see the top teeth. You can't see the bottom ones. On a crocodile, if this were a crocodile, you would see one big tooth sticking up above the lip from the bottom jaw. So that's one way to know it. Another thing, just besides that, if you do want to know the difference between a crocodile and an alligator, is the shape of the snout. So these are always round like a U, and a crocodile are going to come at a point, more like a point. And crocodiles are all around the world, whereas alligators are only in the marshy areas and in along the Yangtze River in China. Okay, you guys curious? Still thinking that maybe you want to have a pet? Think about when maybe you want to start with a baby. So baby alligators, they hatch from eggs, and the mother stays close by. By the way, the mother sticks with one husband. The male might have several wives, maybe he has a harem, but the female does mate year after year with the same, they try to. Versus crocodiles, no, they play the field, let's just say, the world of crocodiles. So the mother hears when the babies start to hatch out, and they are called hatchlings. Babies are called hatchlings. She hears a little squeak squeak, and she goes over and she puts all of her 7-inch long, that's about like that, it's about 7 inches, black and white striped babies in her mouth. She closes her mouth and she goes to her nesting area. And that's where she's gonna raise her young, and the young will stay with her for 2 years. So they'll stay a long time with her. Really fascinating thing is the gender of an alligator. It's determined by the temperature of the nest where the egg was. Okay, so it's a very little window. You're gonna have a female, except for a little window of temperature heat, or that'll be the male, otherwise it's a female. So colder or hotter, it's female, the middle one is gonna be male. So the temperature is, if it is 89, I'll tell you exactly, 89.6 degrees or colder, female. 89.6 to 90.5, not very much difference, male. So basically 90 degrees male. If it's warmer than 90.5, back to being a female. And that's how the gender, that's what scientists have observed. Isn't that? I know, it's fascinating. So another thing on your potential pet alligator would be its behavior. So, okay, what does it do? Well, it's gonna eat. Now, an alligator has teeth, okay, you can see them. Do you think that these teeth are more designed to eat animals or to eat plants?
Animals.
Why do you think animals?
Because they're big and sharp and scary.
Good. And what would they have if they did eat plants? So you see something they have, but what are they lacking? So what's a molar? Maybe not everybody knows what a molar is.
They're like big back teeth that are like flat so you can chew.
Yes. Oh, excellent.
And we also have them.
Good. Grinding, chewing teeth. Perfect. That's right. So these guys are carnivores. They have a very, very strong jaw that allows them to snap shut, and they are not very strong at opening up. And so you can actually, the average human can actually hold close the mouth of an alligator. You can't stop it from coming down, but once it's down, you could close it. And what hunters do a lot of times, I can even show you in some of these pictures, is that they put duct tape around the mouth once it's closed. You can see easily on this picture that there's duct tape around his mouth. So, okay. Oh, and your behavior. What are you gonna feed him? Now, he has these teeth. Oh, and one thing I want you to know before I tell you exactly what he eats, he is an apex predator. So an apex predator is the term for the animal at the top of the food chain. Everything else is below him. He likes to eat fish, turtles, and small mammals, and other amphibians. So turtles is a big reason why his teeth are the way they are, because he has to be able to crush the shell of a turtle in order to get at the meat inside. So if you're gonna have him for a pet, keep that in mind, what you're gonna have to feed him. All right, so swimming. The special thing about this guy, if you wanted to have him for a pet, you need to either have a very, very large swimming pool or live on a river or a marshy lake, because the combination of his webbed feet, you see this area in between the toes, that's the webbing, webbed feet plus a strong tail. So you see half of his body length is his tail. Webbed feet plus strong tail equals very fast swimmer. So your guy can go speedy fast. Also, he's not so fast on land. As you can see, he's kind of like stubby legs with a heavy body. This guy can only top out at about 15 miles an hour. That's really not very fast. 15 miles an hour would be a fast person on a bicycle. Okay, a car going normal speed on a highway is about 70 miles an hour. This guy's only going 15. A really fast bike rider maybe goes 25 miles an hour. You see, so alligators are pretty slow on the ground running. Another thing I want to tell you, it's like an interesting little story, I think. You know, I love this interesting thing about Florida and all their alligators. So they have so many alligators there, and they crawl into the highway like they don't really care that anybody is driving by. And so Highway 75 that goes across, you know, the shape of Florida, it goes all the way from the Gulf of Mexico to the Atlantic Ocean, Naples on one side and Fort Lauderdale on the other. It's called Alligator Alley. And when you're in that 80-mile stretch, you got to be extra careful, because they might just, if you decide to pull over, might just have a visitor that you didn't intend. But let's say, is anybody curious, like, is it safe to have an alligator? What if a friend comes to your house and you have your pet alligator there? What about an attack or something? You know, people are often afraid of that. Are you guys afraid of that?
Yes.
You're
Definitely.
concerned about it?
Yes. Very much.
So there aren't all that many. Last year in Florida, there were only 3 major bites. And since 1948, there have only been 28 fatalities, and that's deaths by alligators. So it's not really all that common. And as a matter of fact, you only have one chance in 3.2 million per year of having encountering an attack by an alligator. So it's not very common. But keep in mind, most people do not taunt alligators. Okay, so that's a big number, but people are often, you know, are mostly careful around them. Okay, but let's say it does happen to you and you do encounter an alligator too close. What should you do? It's good to know, good to share with your friends. Remember these 3 things: run, fight, gouge. Run. They don't want to eat you. You're too big. You're not in their sweet spot of food. So if they're coming after you, it's because they're scared. You know, they're trying to defend themselves or defend their young. So just run away as fast as you can. All right. What if you're in a situation like you fell into something where an alligator was, or you got yourself into a situation for whatever reason where you can't just run away? You need to fight. You need to fight with everything you have. Not just push off. I mean, fight. And in addition, if he grabs you really tight and puts you into what he normally does, I've seen this, they call it the death roll. When you catch one, it performs a death roll. And he just spins vertically like this. Okay, around and around and around. Just, okay? And so if he gets you into his death roll and he's grabbed your arm or your leg, you need to roll with him. Don't try to fight him and go back. Swing around as many times, because if you try to fight and get away from, that's how people have lost their limbs from going the opposite direction during a death roll. So that's not going to happen to you, just in case. You know what to do. Because alligators kind of get this unfair bad rap. You know, they've been around for a long time. They're going to outlast us, for sure us. So we just need to learn to get along with them. And so I think the state of Florida has done a really good job kind of reassociating or rebranding the alligator with the public. So what they have done is created so what are their major schools? The awesome University of Florida is Florida Gators. That's their mascot. And they even had, they created Gatorade there at the university. You know, I'm sure probably if anyone had Gatorade before,
yeah.
see, so that's give you a friendly feeling about the alligators. So, in conclusion, do you think that an alligator should be a pet? I mean, consider how it will live. What are your thoughts on it?
No.
No.
No, why not?
Absolutely not. What else would you feed an alligator besides a turtle?
Well, you could feed it live fish. It will even eat carrion. You could feed it. It would eat a what most pets that are carnivores eat. You buy frozen dead mice. Frozen dead white mice. That's what people who have hawks and things like that, that's what they mostly feed them.
How often do you have to feed them?
Oh,
I feed them every day. And another interesting thing, when they eat, you can't see on any of these because they don't have any of their soft tissues, but when they open their mouth, it's all like white inside with the exception of a little hole. So if you want to come to the Lavaca River Ranch and get your permits and we'll go alligator hunting, they consume, what we hunt with is rotten chicken. And so they swallow it, and it's like a one-way path. It goes down that hole, and then the food can't come back the other way.
It's like a valve.
So if it's alive,
Yeah.
it can't get out.
Yeah, if it's alive, it cannot get out.
So they
Oh.
can't throw up?
How big of a hook do you use?
It's very big. It is as big as my finger. It's,
Oh, that's not too big.
yeah, well, it's not like a fishing hook. I'd say it's, that big.
Yeah.
And in the state, are we doing okay? I don't want to keep you guys too long. We're only allowed 20 or 30 minutes. And so for the state of Texas, we have a lot of rules. And I don't know what the rules are. I am curious to know. If anyone wants, I can look it up and you can email me or text me or write me your phone number. But what the rules are in other states, but I know here, I explained already about the limit, how many you're allowed to have. Now, you can't just go out there, spot an alligator, because it's very easy to see them. I mean, if you know where they are, you can find them the next day. There's no challenge to it, okay? So here, you cannot hunt alligators at night. So you put out your bait and you leave it there before dusk, so before it gets dark. Then the next morning you come back to check, okay? So what your bait situation looks like, this is the way we do it. Attach a cane pole with very, very strong line, and we use a special kind of, they call it tape, but it's like a string that electricians use to run through pipes. We run that, and then we have the hook and a whole chicken that's rotten and stinky, and all that is suspended above the water. Okay, so if my arm is the water, there's this big hook and this stinky chicken, and it's above that. Then off you go. You set all that up and go back and do your thing at night, eat dinner. The next morning, can't be dark, so it's gotta wait till the sun comes up. You're hoping that your bait is now in the water, but you don't know if it fell or if there's a sad alligator at the other end of the line. So you come along and you check your line, and if he's there, then you can harvest him. You bring him onto your land, and then you can harvest him from your, off of your hook, and you end up, I'll show you some pictures. Here are some examples of alligators that were caught here. You can see how big that one is.
Is he dead when you harvest him, or is he alive?
No, he's alive. He is very much alive. And so most people, when you bring him to the shore, and then usually you go to the sweet spot that goes straight to his brain, and you shoot him right there, one shot. So, but alligators, no. Obviously, please do not have an alligator for a pet. Don't tell your friends you should have an alligator for their pet. But what an admirable creature. It has been around so long. It's not trying to hurt anyone. It's part of the food chain, and it's part of our natural habitat that should be admired and protected. Thank you so much.
Oh, that was very good.